The top one, the biggest misconception, is probably the belief that the transformation is a project with an end date.
Famous character from books or the TV series says, assumptions kill, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Jack Reacher.
Yeah, human side, the human thinking, the culture is something which is really hard to change and it's really costly to change. Being an agile for the reason to be an agile is not a good reason. Without of the data, you are yet another person with an opinion. Each of us can have a different opinion.
Transformation often means that you're going to slow down before you're going to speed up. Do you think that AI will take over the job or part of the job of those leaders, or even your job as a transformation specialist? Today I'm talking with Paweł Rola. He has more than a decade of experience in business transformation. He has a PhD in management. He's professional Scrum trainer. He's accredited Kanban trainer. Welcome, Paweł. I'm so happy to have you here. Tell us more about yourself.
Hi, Tom. Thank you for the invitation. I'm glad to be here with you. In a nutshell, who am I? I'm a trusted transformation partner for organizations that are ready to evolve. So I'm helping in improving service and product delivery, achieving digital excellence and business agility. My background is in computer science. I started my career in the software industry. And honestly, I saw multiple challenges associated with developing IT products. And it piqued my interest in management, which led me into agility. And as a result of this career pivot, you already mentioned that I got a PhD in management. I had worked with multiple different organizations with over 120,000 employees, with market evaluation going above 115 million US dollars, and across multiple different industries like oil and gas, healthcare, insurance, and telecommunication. In the upcoming 3 months, I'm trying to focus on creating a new resource and training. And this is my goal, to help mid-size and big organization to unlock their ability to be adaptable and gain business adaptability.
All right, cool. Thanks for introducing yourself. Let me ask about your beginnings. So, as we mentioned, you have a PhD in management. I know that you also focus a lot on realizing the human potential in the element of business transformation. What sparked this interest for you? Why did you get into this field of work to begin with?
That's a great question. When I try to come back with the memories on my early stages of career, I saw that even though the people inside of the projects are heavily skilled in terms of technology, which they do, they have the right tools, they have a right budget. For some reasons, the projects fail, the products fail. And this sparked my interest in terms of what actually can help build better products and what can help build better services and deliver better projects. And based on my observation, I thought that the most important factor is or are human beings, so people in general speaking. This is where the biggest frustration is coming. This is from where the biggest uncertainty, complexity is coming. And I think if I need to point out one of the factors, it will be probably the one associated with the people. If you have a highly effective group of people, individuals, collective, a team, whatever you want to name them, they are able to achieve astonishing goals. But there's many different aspects which need to be taken in consideration to allow them to build a great product.
Yeah. All right. I noticed while searching for information about you that you're specializing in VUCA or VUCA environment. Can you tell me more about this? What is it, and why is it important to you?
Why it's important? It's probably
maybe start with what it is, because I think not everyone watching us will know.
Okay, so VUCA stands for vulnerability, uncertainty, unpredictability, and ambiguity. And this is a description of the environment which modern organizations very often challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a significant amount of disruptions nowadays around the organizations, around the project, around the products which they deliver, which cause disruptions for the products they are building. And VUCA defines such an environment which is highly impacting the project and the products. Does it make sense for you?
Yep.
So when you take into consideration the complexity of this environment and the multiple different challenges which are facing, which projects are facing, then you need a special way of managing how you build the product, a special way how you solve the complex problems in such a domain.
What is the single most common and perhaps surprising mistake that companies make when they first try to address the volatility, the uncertainty, so the elements of VUCA in general?
Probably they are not using the right tools and they are not using the right mindset to solve the problems in which they faced. Actually, that would be the most common threat which I would name. We can refer to many different models. Probably the most popular over here will be a Stacy model, which divides which define the different types of the problems. And there are 4 main domains: simple, complicated, complex, and chaos/anarchy. And different type of problems require different tools and different mindset and different approach to solve the problems. And based on my observations, very often organizations, leaders, product owners, decision makers are making a lot of assumptions, and they assume that there is a certainty where it does not exist really. And probably that's the biggest challenge and the harm for the projects nowadays.
So like the famous character from books or the TV series says, assumptions kill, huh?
Oh yeah, that's good. I think that's
Jack Reacher.
Yeah. I'm not sure whether I know which character you refer to, but those assumptions help people to cope with uncertainty. So each of us individually had some kind of preferences. And this is a natural behavior in a human beings and in a human being nature to assume that something will be similar to something what we know from the past. And this is a natural path. So I think each of us individually have the same challenges as well, and we are facing them. So probably the best step over here to be aware that there's different types of problems.
Assumptions are one of the 2 things that I found identified in, like, when I looked back at my own project management career, and I was thinking, okay, how do we fail when we do? What are the root causes of this? And assumptions are one of the 2 main reasons, I think, that all the failures I've identified happened. The number 1 is miscommunication, I think. So communication is like my super top priority everywhere I go, but assumptions are the second priority. So whenever I'm like having a moment to sit down and reflect on what's going on in a certain endeavor, project, whatever it is, I'm always thinking, do I communicate everything to everyone? What am I missing in terms of communication? And the second thing I'm always thinking is, what assumptions am I making that maybe I should actually check instead of just assuming that it's a truth or a fact. So that's definitely something that I agree with. And these are just examples from like failing projects, but we're here to talk a bit about bigger things, I guess. So let's take this as a ramp to the next question. What do you think are the main factors for business transformations that fail? Not just projects, not just portfolios, but like business transformations that are happening across the organization. What do you think are the main fail factors of those?
That's a really deep question, and I need to admit there's multiple different reasons why transformation may fail. Probably there's a lot of publication also in the internet available where you can read through and see some kind of summary. Maybe I will refer to my own experience because this is something what I witness with different organizations, and among a few of them, I might focus on three. The top three one in terms of the bigger transformation when we think about the changing the business. So the top one, the biggest misconcept is probably the belief that the transformation is a project with an end date.
Okay.
So treating it as a project which has an end date, from my perspective, it's not a marathon to finish and go home and do business as usual. It's more as a new way of traveling for the entire organization.
Yeah.
So transformation for me is a continuous capability building inside of the organization, changing the behavior, changing the culture as transition states, but it never ends because you would like to continuously adapt based on the new learning, based on the changing environment. So probably that's the one aspect when you have a really narrow horizon. So treating it as a project. The second one, which might be not popular among the managers, especially the senior one, will be such a wishful thinking. We will do the transformation while we will be doing business as usual. Unfortunately, in many cases, the one which I witnessed on almost in all of the cases is impossible. You almost need to slow down for a while to speed up in the future. So as a leader, as a senior leader, to do not follow in this trap, you will need to protect the capacity of the people who are leading the transformation and who are actively working on it. Making a transformation as a part-time project or a role, not allocating enough time, not removing the conflict of demand for the individuals, people's tools, whatever, not providing coaching and the tools is something what harm many of the organizations. And I can recall multiple different stories in reference to this bit. Probably the most relevant one will be that was a big transformation, maybe without going with the details. Digital transformations, the new structure was introduced, and I was speaking with one of the senior leaders, who was in the front of the exercise where they were mobilizing new teams, new Scrum teams, and they need to assign proper people, appoint product owners to the different teams. And there was a discussion how senior the product owner should be, the organization. And the organization decided to appoint a high-stake managers, really important business people. Honestly, great choice. Because those were the people who were able to make a decision. They understand the decisions. They can take those consequences, the consequences of those decisions. Unfortunately, they didn't relieve them from the current responsibilities. Even though I was, making them aware few times, not seeing there's a problem over here and we will struggle with it. In the upcoming 7 months, since the new PO product owners were appointed, I need to make intervention in each of the teams. And all of the interventions were related to the product owner availability and their ability to work with the teams. Sometimes you need to make those hard trade-offs. And
so what was the problem? Like, they didn't have time to work with the teams. What was the result of this? The teams were not moving forward with a satisfying pace, or the work was not being done at all? What was the result?
Yeah, so probably the biggest challenge in most of the cases was the product owner's diary. So they were really high in the organization, those managers, and they have multiple different duties related to the role, to the daily role. And on top of those duties, they were appointed as the product owners, which is a full-time job. Let's be honest and blunt, it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
Especially at the beginning, where you are building a new, highly innovative product.
Yeah, definitely at the beginning.
And when you need to work from the and think from the business perspective, also from the technical perspective, you need to create a business model, the vision, the goal, a full-time job. So the biggest frustration was with a lack of availability, because half of the product owners made the decisions that their previous role, manager, is more important, and they focus more on this. Half of them make another decision. So the product owner role is something what I'm really eager to do in the future. However, the complaints from the business starts that this manager is not anymore available. He's doing this weird stuff with his new team, and he forgot about us. So that was the kind of root cause frustration in that team, and those teams, because there were multiple of them.
Okay. Dear leaders, if your transformation feels like meetings, chaos, missed opportunities, listen up. At Genius Gecko, we like to do things differently. So instead of asking you for $100,000+ investment, instead we run a 7-day TCS, which is Transformation Clarity Sprint. So in just 1 week, we're going to map your current workflows, your tool stack, pinpoint the bottlenecks costing you time and money, and hand over a 90-day execution plan containing quick wins, prioritized backlog, owners, metrics, and the tool stack blueprint to make it all real. No fluff, concrete decisions ready to run. And here's the kicker. If we miss the 7-day deadline, or you do not think that what you get is worth it, you get to keep everything for $0. We have 2 slots available each month. So if you want to take this opportunity, go to the description of this video, use the Calendly link to schedule a 15-minute fit call. And if you're a match, you'll get a very attractive offer, and you will be able to see what a truly transformative experience feels like. Now, back to the chat. Why the human and leadership side of transformation is important?
That's a good question.
Yeah, because you didn't mention this in particular as a failed element of transformation, but as you said, in many summaries on the internet, this comes up very, very often, that without the engagement of leadership, proper engagement, right, the transformations are extremely difficult. And my experience shows that it's actually true. Whenever we're going through the transformation, especially the ones that are started somewhere at the bottom of the hierarchy, it's extremely hard to do anything until that higher level management is involved.
That's one of the crucial success factor for me, and I have a long story about why senior leadership engagement and sponsorship is important. But maybe it's a side discussion. Let's come back to your original question. Why the human side is so important? If you take a step back, okay, and you think what actually organization is, it's a coordinated unit of individuals, people, collective.
Correct. Yeah.
Composed of people, and on top of that, we've got the resource tools. The system as it whole exists to achieve the common goal. And actually, without the people, organization will not exist. Okay. And on top of entire structure, you've got the organizational culture, which it could be treated as a kind of glue for the operation. which is a way how we can collectively try to program all of the people inside of the organization to, at some extent, think in the similar way.
Mm-hmm.
So the human side, the human thinking, the culture is something which is really hard to change, and it's really costly to change. You can install new software relatively fast. You can buy new tools, but changing the behaviors of the people, changing the thinking, how they think, this is probably the biggest challenge in most of the organizations. And if you look on some kind of crucial indicators, in that case, look on the great entrepreneurs. So Richard Branson, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, all of them highlight the importance of a culture, the importance of people who they bring on the board, especially at the early stage of redesigning / creating a new organization. So all of the gentlemen, great entrepreneurs, point out that probably the most important duties of a CEO, of a leader, is first of all, build the right culture, get the right people on board, and let them do their job. So probably that's the most important aspect of a leadership in a modern organization, especially those which are really successful.
Yep. I loved how you like took the step back to frame how the organization looks like from like very far away. There's essentially just a interconnected group of people, and without proper mindset of those people, alignment along their ways of thinking, it's very, very hard to move in a desired direction. And you also said that changing how people think is extremely difficult, and this is very often a huge challenge. Let's follow up on this. How do you change the way that people think?
People consciously or unconsciously resist to a change.
Yep.
And there might be many good reasons why the people resist to a change. So changing human behavior and overcoming a resist is a tricky part. And I think each of the case is different, is individual.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I would point out a few bullet points, which I'm always trying to look whenever I'm implementing or trying to implement the change in the organization. First of all, I would start with a bigger why. So explain why we need to change. What is the need for the change? And typically it's related to the leadership. They are guiding and navigating the organization. So what I like to do is to invite the leaders to co-create the vision of the future and define how does the organization should look like in the future. And then when we have a vision, we need to define a group of people who will control the transformation and move it forward. So we need to make people responsible. We need to give them enough space to contribute. We need to give them enough skills, capabilities to change, and invite them to co-design and coordinate the entire transformation. Because once the people are on board, once they co-design the solution, they almost immediately, most of them became a change agent. So it's way more easier to you if you have a few change agents. So let me try to summarize it. Start with why, explain why you need it, build a kind of sense of urgency by providing the data, the information, try to define the clear vision, get people on board, get the change agents inside of the organization and give them skills, capabilities, resource, whatever is needed to implement the change and be open to modification and evolution. That will be my short algorithm recommendation to any kind of leader.
Okay. And do you think like that everybody can go through this transformation. So maybe let's define the transformation itself. Let's pick one of the examples that maybe let's take the most common one. So the organization is going agile, right? So they have been working in a, let's say, waterfall kind of fashion, and they decide, hey, our business should work well in the agile environment. We should have faster time to market, and tons of other benefits. Let's be more agile. So they hire a specialist from the outside, or they train someone from the inside, doesn't matter, and they embark on this journey. To go from like the waterfall style of doing work to the agile style of doing work, I think several things have to happen. So one of the things that will happen is that like the way you're doing things day to day is going to change, because now you have all these new rituals connected with Scrum. You have all these new ways of planning things, both in terms of resources and in terms of budgets. But I think so that's one thing. But the second thing is the mindset of people, because working in the agile environment requires you to be a little bit different. Maybe I don't know if I am ready to define what different means over here, but you have to think along different lines. So like one of the things I could say here to be more specific is that, for example, you should be constantly looking for improvements. You maybe should be more flexible when it comes to changing the parameters that have been set yesterday, right? And maybe today a new information comes in and you have to change it, but okay, that was already communicated to the board, so we can't change it, right? So things like these. So and these things, I think, are like deeply rooted in people's minds, in people's characters sometimes. And I think some people will switch quite easily from one way to another, especially those that will see the benefit of it. But for some, it might be really difficult because of their character traits. And I was thinking while digging deeper into this, that this is actually the extremely difficult part, to kind of carry those people through that journey, those people that have it hard, to change or switch the mindset from one way to another. Do you have any, like, maybe first, did you experience this while working with the companies you've worked with, and how to deal with that?
Thank you for that question. It's a really deep one, and I need to admit, yes, I experienced this multiple times in a different setup and different organizations. Coming back to my initial thoughts, probably the first step, again, would be starting with why. Being an agile for the reason to be an agile is not a good reason. You need to clearly communicate, okay? So probably you need to make a step back. Let's look how a clearly defined mission can really benefit the organization. You probably know the Microsoft, the biggest company, or one of the biggest companies in the world. When at the early 90s, 80s, Microsoft was led by Bill Gates, they have a clear mission, and the mission was a computer on every desk and in every home. And this is the time where Microsoft was growing significantly. They become one of the most viable companies in the entire world. Okay. After Bill Gates stepped back from the CEO position, they appointed Stephen Ballmer, really great, energetic leader. But his main focus was not on inspiring innovation, but rather protecting existing business, so Windows and Office. And after 14 years, he was probably for the 14 years a CEO, despite of the significant growth of the competitors like Apple, like Amazon, like Google, who actually skyrocketed in that time, Microsoft didn't make a huge step forward. Actually, they missed on multiple different occasions, like the mobile phone shift, the early cloud solutions which were built, and which was the rising of the Amazon AWS and so on and so on. So starting with why, and this why needs to be really sticky to the people. They need to understand what is the reason why we are trying to change. Once we understand what is I, then the next bit will be actually, I think, in terms of implementing the change in the complex environment, will be an active leadership. So leaders needs to engage, needs to be committed, needs to be accountable. They need to become a change agent and act. Because without the leadership commitment, people will immediately see that something is wrong, something is fake over here. My leaders are not the change agent. They are not role modeling the behaviors which I'm asked to do. So that's the next step. Once you have this bigger why, once you have a leadership on board, you can start to think about a different approach, how you want to implement the change in the organization. Let's assume you have a really good reason. You want to be closer to your customer. You want to respond faster to the needs of the customer. You want to build a modern digital service for your customer. You already understand that probably the agility is the way how we want to move forward. You've got the leaders on board. They got the vision. Next step, which I would probably recommend, instead of doing a big bang evolution, I would start gradually, step by step, using an approach in which I would start a small pilot inside of the organization. Let's try to learn how the agility is working in our environment, how it's coping with our culture. So probably figuring out few points in the pain points in the organization. Maybe some products is suffering due to the lack of the customer. Maybe some service are not really working really well, and this could be your starting point. So instead of coming back to Japanese words, instead of kaikaku, which is a huge change, a big bang introduction of the new model, rolling it out on the entire organization, I would recommend a Kaizen approach, step by step. So make a few experiments, learn, and based on this, adapt. What is also beneficial for this kind of approach, you already got some proofs that this new ways of working, new ways of thinking is working in the organization. So you can use those proofs to fuel a future transformation. Because if you've got a change agent, the people who work in the new way, agility will probably at that point already become a kind of buzzword in your organization. People will see a good benefits. So tracking a progress and the value which is delivered by the small team experimenting with agility is really important to have a tangible proof, evidence that agility is working in your environment, and then gradually try to implement until you will get enough momentum to transform a bigger part of the organization. Maybe you can start with the transformation of one department and then add the next one and the next one and the next one. And this is how you build the momentum for entire organization. I had been witnessing this kind of gradual approach to the transformation when I was working with a global leader in the oil and gas. The initial period took them almost 1.5 years. They make a few experiments around the globe just to understand how it will be working and how it might harm their business and the operation as well, because there's always risk with transformation. And after this 1.5 years, there was a made decision, okay, this is something what we would like to invest in more, and we would like to start to transform a bigger part of the business. But it took them 1.5 years of very, very hard, very deep learning, experimenting, and understanding how they can benefit from this approach. Does it make sense for you?
It does. And I have so many follow-up questions.
Go ahead. We have time.
So the first thing I noted down is when you were talking about, okay, let's start with why, and convince people that there is something important standing behind this. I absolutely agree with this. I think that it's a necessity, yes, but it's also quite difficult to come up with a good why that will touch the people, I would say, right? They have to understand it. They have to connect to it. And so it has to be maybe a little bit bold, maybe a little bit inspiring. And maybe it has to contain sometimes some harsh truths as well. I'm saying all of those things because, again, there are very different kinds of people, right? So you need to define the why that will be accepted by all of them. And one of the things that came to my mind, probably because I am such a person, is like I react to facts and hard arguments, you know? So when you will tell me, hey, we need to do this transformation because after doing it successfully, we will be, I don't know, 20% more profitable. Or maybe currently we are spiraling down towards the abyss and this is the only way to avoid going bankrupt, you know, or whatever. We will have 15% better efficiency somewhere. These kind of things speak to me personally. And recently I've been going through Ray Dalio's book, The Principles, I think. I'm not sure about the title, but it's like about his life principles in a workplace and in his private life. And and he was talking over there about how the culture in his company was a little bit unique when it came to sharing the information with people. And he cultivated this approach of extreme transparency, extreme leadership, extreme ownership, I think, as well. So this is what I was thinking about. Do you think that being transparent with the results of the company, with the numbers, with like the direction that we want to go when it comes to sharing those numbers with people, is this a good way of maybe not necessarily framing the why, because the why often is like pretty short, but then the further explaining why it is so important. And like just to finish the question, one of the things that comes always to my mind when I'm thinking about it is that when I was working in a company, there was the Atlassian Platinum partner in Poland. One of the things we struggled with was that one part of the business was not profitable enough. So when we looked into the data, I started to analyze, you know, how much people are spending on tasks, how many of those hours are billable, how many are not billable, and we came up to a very simple conclusion: we are spending too little time on billable hours. Therefore, all we have to do is to make sure that we are not overloading the department with people that are not able to work on billable projects, right? Fortunately, we had projects in the pipeline, so it wasn't a matter of firing people to be more effective. It was rather the matter of making the people more effective in what they are doing. So, and like, you know, on one end, you could say, okay, now to do this, you kind of have to tell people that they have to work more, which actually is not true, because they just have to work the same amount of time. They just have to do more meaningful work in the same amount of time. But I was surprised to see that, like, just showing people, hey, if we are like as a team, if we are going to be, or you are going to be 10 or 15% more effective, it's going to have a tremendous impact on the yearly or annually results, for example, right? And everybody was like, oh, cool, this is awesome. Yeah, let's do this. You know, I'm sure that 10 or 15% is not a big bump. We can do it. So that was really awesome. So again, coming back to the question, do you think that those numbers are important in defining the why?
Definitely understanding of the current situation is really important. The modern organizations shouldn't be organized in a very command and control environment, especially bigger ones. One person is not able to oversee all of the decision. So you almost need to have a kind of network of internal decisions makers who make decisions in on their level, because they are probably the best people to make the decision, because they are the closest to the customer, they're closest to the product, they're closest to the challenges, they're closest to the services. Without of information, you cannot implement the empirical process. So in general, empiricism believe that our knowledge comes from experience. So based on knowledge which organization gain, it can inspect and adapt. But inspection and adaptation would be pointless without of the transparent information. Okay, because this inspection and adaptation needs to be made based on the results which actually organization is achieving. So without of in other way, without of sharing the information, people will not make an informed decision, will not make an evidence-based decisions. Exactly. They will use their own judge. They will use their own wishful thinking in many occasions. So I would say yes, the most successful organization which I was working with are almost obsessed with the transparency of the information. Awesome. To make a right decision, and they believe in the people who are in charge on the specific level of organization, the specific place of the organization, that's together with the teams, they will make a right decision. So they need to almost give them a right tool to make those decisions, to make those informed decisions.
Yeah. But very happy to hear it. Like on the previous podcast, I talked with Magda, and Magda was talking a lot about the evidence-based decision making, and I absolutely agree with this. Like this is, I think, one of the principles that has to be put in place, so that another thing that I remember what you were saying is Daniel Kahneman, who is a famous person when it comes to analyzing how our minds work. In one of his books, I remember he wrote and proved that people are terrible at making estimates. So I always think about this when I think, okay, I feel that this is going to be better than something else, but feeling something doesn't equal making an informed decision based on data. So whenever it is possible to have the data to make the decision, always go this route, right? Whenever it's not possible, well, then you kind of have to trust your gut.
I have a very blunt, sorry for interrupting you. I have a very blunt quote, which I use with my customers very often. And is, without of the data, you are yet another person with an opinion. Each of us can have a different opinion. Once you will have a data, we can start to talk, based on the results which we're seeing. So that's really important in terms of bigger transformation, to start to measure the outcome, the progress, the value which you deliver from the early stage of the transformation. Because sooner or later, someone will come and ask whether this new transformation is working, whether we are benefiting out of it, whether our customers are more satisfied, or there will be a multiple good question and good challenges internally inside of the organization. So the sooner you start to measure something, the sooner you move into the empirical process, understand what are you doing and what kind of benefits you are getting, you will sooner be a partner in those kinds of discussions. Not a person with the opinion. GT is working because teams are very satisfied. Yes, prove me this. Sorry. Exactly. I spoke with a friend next to the coffee machine, and he is really satisfied. Okay, good to know, but probably that's not really the proof which I was looking for.
Yeah, I love the quote. Dear leaders, if your transformation feels like meetings, chaos, missed opportunities, listen up. At Genius Gecko, we like to do things differently. So instead of asking you for $100,000+ investment, instead we run a 7-day TCS, which is Transformation Clarity Sprint. So in just 1 week, we're going to map your current workflows, your tool stack, pinpoint the bottlenecks costing you time and money, and hand over a 90-day execution plan containing quick wins, prioritized backlog, owners, metrics, and the tool stack blueprint to make it all real. No fluff, concrete decisions ready to run. And here's the kicker. If we miss the 7-day deadline, or you do not think that what you get is worth it, you get to keep everything for $0. We have 2 slots available each month. So if you want to take this opportunity, go to the description of this video, use the Calendly link to schedule a 15-minute fit call. And if you're a match, you'll get a very attractive offer, and you will be able to see what a truly transformative experience feels like. Now, back to the chat. I immediately thought about how we are making decisions internally as a company. So like me as a CEO, I have the deciding vote. And I'm always very open to being wrong, but I will accept that I'm wrong only if you prove me wrong. If it's just your opinion versus my opinion, well, I will always value my opinion higher, right? I mean, not always. On the topics that I feel I have more experience with, right? Of course.
Yeah, and a reasonable person will do the same. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
It's his opinion. My opinion is more. It's good that you point out your experience as a leader and that you are open one. Did this trigger a kind of thinking around a specific mindset which leaders should have? And what I found through my engagement with multiple different leaders is that the transformations in general are going really well in the organization where we do have people who I like to refer to like leaders with a growth mindset. Mm-hmm. So the kind of people who, as you point out, believe that they can be wrong, and they focus on collaboration, innovation, and sustainable growth of the organization. Okay, so there's the 2 types of people, and I'm referring to Carol Dweck. So you can Google him, and his book is really a good one. There are leaders with fixed mindset and leaders with a growth mindset, and this can be applied to any kind of people. Okay, so the people with a fixed mindset are the individuals who have a kind of fixed mindset behavior. So they think that their talents, intelligence, personality are unchangeable and irreversible. So they very often believe that they need to prove their worth, and they see failure as something wrong, and they seek for evidence that they are great. On the other hand, we've got a growth mindset, individuals who believe that their abilities can be changed and modified and actually develop through the consistent effort, learning, and opportunities to work with different environments, with a different setup. So what actually they see an initial failure as a great opportunity to grow. And when you have those growth leaders inside of your organization, as a senior managers, as a CEOs, they really understand that the transformation is a journey, and it will take long, and we will fail in multiple different occasions. Okay, and we will have multiple different experiments through which we will try to learn what is working best for us. And the experiments for me and for the growth leaders, which I try to encourage a lot of people to have this kind of mindset, can fail under one condition only. If you don't learn. If you don't learn, exactly.
Yeah.
So if you always pick something, learn something, you can pivot your direction, you can change your direction, and actually make a next step in the right, correct direction, or at least know that this is not the path which you would like to follow in the future. Yeah. Sorry for this interruption, but
no problem. Let's actually follow up on this. because I have also a note that is connected to it. So those experiments, pilot phases that you've mentioned also earlier, I'm interested in your experience as to when do companies go with the pilot phase and when do they prefer to go kind of all in and go for the transformation immediately everywhere with a broad range of impact on a company. Is there a specific reason that pushes companies into one area or another, or is it like just random? What's your experience of this?
It's a good question, and I think the question is heavily related to the leadership and the style of the leadership which they have on board, because typically those transformation may be triggered by, typically, I'm not saying all of them, may be triggered by 2 points of the organization. One of them is it's coming from the bottom to up. Mm-hmm. So actually somewhere down in the organization, there are teams experimenting with these new ways of working, and suddenly someone figured out that they get a really great successes. They got a really good outcome of their work. They are really, maybe they're really efficient. Maybe the customer are really satisfied, and this trigger thinking what this team is doing differently comparing to the others. Or there's a shift from the management. They think that there's a direction. They understand the bigger why. They know where they want to go. And in that case, the transformation is triggered top down. So you've got the buy-in from the sponsor, and it's triggered top down. So let's focus on the latter. When you have leaders who are convinced or are willing to invest. And over here, I would put a few points. First of all, how fast they want to get the results, or how fast they need to prove the results, mm-hmm. Which is not always equal to how beneficial the transformation will be for the organization, but that's another topic. What is their appetite for the risk? Okay. In what time frame are they willing to change the organization? And what is the condition of the organization currently? Whether it's a really transformation or maybe it's a crisis management. Okay, yeah. And the boat is sinking. And those will be the factors which will affect a different type of approach and different pace and the speed of the transformation as itself. And I'm not saying that fast implementation is the best solution over here, mm-hmm. Especially if you want to have a long-lasting impact. Sometimes slowing down to speed up in the future, I already used this quote probably today, is a better solution. But there might be a case that the boat is sinking, you are losing millions of dollars every day, and you need to make a crisis management, like in terms of Xerox. And that's probably the great example where Xerox was losing a tremendous amount of money, and forgot the name of the lady. It was Anne Mulchan. I probably mispronounced her surname, but she literally saved Xerox from bankruptcy. So at the beginning of 2000s, they were losing some ridiculous amount of money. I don't know, 300 million a year. And in the 3 years' time, she changed the situation that Xerox started to earn almost 90 million a year. But she taken multiple bold action with including financial stabilization. So she sold multiple different assets. She reduced the debt significantly. She was really focusing and working on improving the cash flow. There was an operation transformation over there also. So she significantly cut the costs. She streamlined operation, but what she was really focusing on and not saving on was an innovation and customer focus. So even though she cut significantly the costs of the operations, sales expenses, and administrative expenses. She heavily invests in R&D. She heavily invests in the effort to create a new product. She implement the customer-centric approach over there, and she almost transform entire leadership to focus on the customer, on their needs, on the innovation, and she significantly motivate the employees. Anna was a great growth mindset leader. That's one of the great example. Tremendous job done over there, and significant turnover. The Xerox at those days was almost bankruptcy.
Yeah. And I think this is a good example. I loved it because when I was thinking about the answer I would give to this question, I would probably say that there are two circumstances where not doing the pilot phase makes sense. One is when the company is a very dire situation and they need to transform, they need to pivot maybe, they need to restructure sometimes, right? Because otherwise they're just going bankrupt in some time in the future, close time in the future. And I think the second situation is, I think also, as you were saying, when the leaders at the top, the sponsors, are already convinced enough when it comes to the transformation that like the direction they are going to, they know that it works, maybe because they come from other organizations where it was already implemented, and they're like, okay, I've seen it, it works 100% of the time, let's just do it. We don't have to test things. It has to work. We've seen it work before.
Red flag for me. You should always be careful with those kind of bold decisions. It works in multiple different places because each of the organizations is slightly different. And be a conscious and aware leader that you probably, if you are a leader in the big organization, this is a complex system. And there are no two the same organization in the entire world. Each of them is slightly different. So yes, I would put you with this kind of thinking into the bucket of leaders who are willing to take a bigger risk, a huge risk over here, because it's a still risk which you maybe you cannot afford to mitigate through those step-by-step gradual evolution instead of revolution.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely connected with more risk. Okay, one more thing I wanted to ask about the pilot phases, which is again connected with something else you were talking about. So we want to be able to, we're doing the pilot phase to test things out, see what works, what doesn't, gather some information, maybe later on have more background to share with the rest of the organization, say, hey, look, this part of the department did the transformation started working in a different way, and now these metrics are better by whatever. So if we do this transformation, and on your side, it's going to also be awesome. But we've also said, I mean, you said it, but I agree with it, that transformation often means that you're going to slow down before you're going to speed up. So in this context, for how long do you think typically a pilot phase should be run before you kind of know, okay, this is actually not a part where we are still slow, we are already fast?
I will use the consultant answer over here. It depends. Okay? It depends. If we so it depends on how fast you can collect the data, and meaningful data, how fast your environment is changing, and in general, if you are at the beginning of the transformation of learning process, what I would like to encourage team to is to fail as soon as possible. And as often as possible, because cycles of inspection and adaptation and as a conclusion, as a result, there might be a fail. You will fail to the goal which you will set in front of you. Are the great opportunity to your team and your people to learn more. So the sooner you fail, the sooner you start to learn, and the sooner you start to learn, the sooner you will start to move toward the good direction. So I would say that's the point where I, at the beginning, try to highlight the importance of starting to measuring as soon as possible and learning as soon as possible. Typically, those kinds of pilots inside of the teams to gather some kind of meaningful impact may take from half a year to a year. If we are speaking on the team level, let's assume so, because there's a time where you need to digest the change the ways of working. You will probably need to, as you point out, slow down at the beginning. You will put a little bit of disruption into the system. So you need to, and I'm treating over here a system as a group of people, as a team, which is providing service, building the product, or whatever they're doing. They need to stabilize and see the results and the outcome coming out of the good work. So before they will even see the good results, they will put a stress into the system. And the perception will be we are probably slowing down, is building a frustration, and let's forget about this weird stuff. Typically, on the team level, let's assume team is above 10 people, it will last from, I don't know, half a year to 7-8 months. But it may vary depending on the context, on the complexity, on the challenges of the organization, and how often they are producing something. I had been working, with the organization where the product team had been identified themselves as an agile teams working in the agile way. And when I started the initial discussion with them, one of the few first question which I raised to them was, hey, when did you release your product last time? And they asked, what do you mean? You've got a several sprints history. You are on sprint number 35 or 36. I'm asking a quite simple question. When did you release your product? And the answer was, we release once a year. Okay. So in that case, they cycle to learn something new. The greatest opportunity which they have is only once a year.
Yeah.
So if they are working in such a pace in terms of empirical approach and identification of what is working, what is not working, it may take 7 years, okay, or a decade in the case of this team. So the solution over here is to speed up the learning process significantly, to start to learn fast, and then you will get a faster results. And of course, there might be multiple different constraints in the organizations. For those of people who, or your audience who is working in the IT product development teams, the release cycle, the security check, the compliance, and all the stuff around the teams might block the teams to actually be fast in learning. So depending on the constraints, it may vary, but I would be encouraging the team to start to do it as fast as possible.
Okay, makes sense. What's the shortest pilot you've encountered? I think for me, it's like around a period of 3 months. I think we never went below 3 months, but the 6 months period you've mentioned is pretty typical for us as well.
Yeah, the shortest one are probably the one where team was already advanced and mature in terms of measuring processes. So I would say the shortest cycles are typically with the teams who are closely related to the customer service, because for many good reasons, those teams already measure their processes or the service which they provide to the customers really well. To keep the SLA. So in that case, you can almost immediately see the results. So yeah, as you mentioned, 3 months, even 2 months, sometimes the numbers occur faster. It depends on how fast the feedback loop is. if you can get if you can measure, get the feedback loop every day or even more often, in that case, 2 months, maybe 1 month, it's enough proof to be statistically significant to prove that something is going into the right direction, and we can invest a little bit more for the next period. Okay, let's assume that was the pilot, a 1 month or a 1.5 month. We see that we are going toward good direction. Let's invest our next 6 months or 8 months to go in this direction, and let's make a next decision point after 8 months. Okay, and yeah, this is how I would encourage them to work. Always make a kind of check and see what are the results.
Okay, thanks. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the future, because I think this is very interesting as well at this point in time, at least. How do you think business transformations and maybe the role of leadership, how is it going to change in the upcoming 5 to 10 years, maybe even 3 to 5 years is a more interesting period to ask at this point in time?
Future is really unpredictable. That's a great question. Due to the fact of the unpredictability of the future, I think that more and more future leaders will be actually transformational leaders by default. If you look what is happening around the organization, the remarkable breakthrough in terms of AI, and I don't want to, play that game, but honestly, the super intelligent is just right the corner, and the team's capabilities are significantly improving. And they are significant. The ability of the teams which are using AI or in the future super AI are significantly improving their speed to discover new knowledge. And as a result of the new knowledge, as a result of creating a new technology, we can enrich our businesses and products. But there's a stage at which the speed of invention will be so fast and so deep in terms of technology that the human beings will be not able to cope with such a significant change. So people will not be able to digest all of those new technologies. By people, I think about the people inside of the teams who are building the products or delivering the service, but also the customers. So if you will get a new feature every week, if you will get a new technology every week, as a human being, at some point in the time, you will probably not be able to cope with all those new stuff so rapidly as a human being, as a human thinking. Of course, robots, super intelligent can do so, but the human beings have a kind of cognitive limit to digesting the information. And I've got my personal thinking. You always need to meet the customer where they are actually and see what are their limitations. So in that case, you will always need to meet the customer where they are, because at some point, if you rapidly evolve your products and the service to the extent where the customers will not be able to cope with what you are offering them, probably you will be not successful. So the environment will be changing really, really fast. So the team definitely will need to be an adaptive, agile teams. The leaders needs to be an adaptive leaders with an open mind, but there will be some kind of safety trigger for the people and for the connections to set the pace in terms of development, at least for the next 5 years. After the 5 years, if we will know so much more comparing to what we know now currently, if the technology will grow up so significantly, it's really hard to predict what will happen. Okay, maybe we'll have a chip in our brain, and super intelligent will be everywhere. So I think that the open leaders, the growth mindset, and the leaders who will be focusing on their people, thoughtful leaders who will manage not only the system but will also emphasize and carefully consider human part in it, user empathy and long-term perspective, and understand the decisions around the consequences and the unintended consequences. This is something what we will be seeing more and more in the future.
Do you think that AI will take over the job or part of the job of those leaders, or even your job as a transformation specialist?
I can try to answer and predict the answer in the terms of 5 years. This is something what I think I can risk to. In the upcoming 5 years, my call is no, it will not take our job. However, it will evolve them significantly. And it will probably put more emphasis on the soft part of our job. So we can
human connection.
Human connection, interactions, getting people on board, thinking about the futures. You can the multiple different cognitive tasks which are done nowadays can be done by AI in a way more effective way. Okay, and if you write the right prompt, if you have enough compute power, you can be a more effective. What AI cannot help currently with is the human connection, is the bigger why. Of course, it can try to polish your vision, but you really need to understand in which direction you are going. It can help you to craft a message to the shareholders, but at the end of the day, if you meet with them like a Warren Buffett and explain some reasoning, and you build a great relation and you have a good sales skills, you will probably thrive in the next 5 years. After those 5 years, I honestly cannot predict anything, because probably in the next 5 years, the environment in which we will be working will be significantly different than nowadays.
I agree as well. So I don't think the AI is going to take the jobs of transformation leaders. Not because it's not going to be ready to, but because adopting this technology will take longer than the evolution of the technology itself. I think the capabilities will be there. But I also am hesitant when it comes to those soft skills, human connection element. I suspect that many people will still simply prefer to work with other people instead of going through these transformations with AI. One part is because I think it's still easier. Second part is, and this might change in the future, but at least at this point in time, the trust that you can put into the AI models is still limited. So I would personally always be afraid that, okay, it's telling me to go in a certain direction, but is it right? Maybe I would prefer to listen to someone with 10 years of experience or 20 years of experience in the field rather than AI, which has this clause at the bottom of the window: AI can be wrong.
Yeah, you stated it really well. And at the end of the day, who will be accountable for the decision?
Oh, yeah.
If something goes wrong, will it be AI, or will it be a person who program AI or train him? I think that the accountability bit for the decision and taking the responsibility for the action which was took by the organization is still really not solved yet, from the legal perspective and from the human being perspective, and understanding the dynamic of the system with people as a part of the system.
Yeah, but like in terms of capabilities, it's actually extremely scary. The consensus right now is that in 2027, which is 2 years from now, AI will be capable enough to replace 95% of jobs. It doesn't mean that this will happen again, right? Because it takes time. But in terms of capabilities, it's going to be there already. Let me ask a question. If you imagine a humanoid robot how capable do you think a humanoid robot currently is? How nimble it is? How, is it like slow? Is it fast? What can it do?
Depend on the task which you will ask him to do. I would say they might be more effective in 70% of the repetitive work which required currently a human being. But that's my guess, honestly. But I cannot imagine currently the humanoid robot who is, who is a teacher in the school.
Yeah. And like if you ask people, most people will imagine the robots from Boston Dynamics, which were able to do those even saltos and things. And this morning I came across a video which blew my mind. It's a video of a robot that it's pretending to be fighting, but it's not really fighting.
Mm-hmm.
But what is astonishing is how this robot, can you see the screen?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, how this robot is maintaining the balance. So I'm going to play this video for you. I'm not sure if how smooth it's going to be, but notice how it protects itself from falling, and even when it falls, how fast it gets up. It's inhuman.
Mm-hmm.
Its balance is much better than person's balance. And like, if on top of this, you add some elements that will, I'll stop it here. If you add some elements that will help it to recognize what's going on around it, and AI that will allow him to understand this process and to the task that it needs to done, which if you think about what Tesla is doing with self-driving cars and how they are doing it with the universal design of creating a 3D model of the environment around you and understanding it, we are so close.
Yeah. Funny fact, a few days ago, I was listening for the great podcast, and the gentleman, I forgot his name, but he was pitching a theory that we are already there. And we currently live in the kind of simulation, one of multiple different simulation, which is overtook by a super intelligent AI. And he was presenting a position, if you look for this several different religions, all of them believe that there's a super intelligent behind or responsible for creating a human being.
Yeah.
And his theory was, hey, maybe we're in this simulation, and we for many, many ages already know that there is something above of us, which is actually simulating some kind of life on Earth, or a bigger with whether it's a computer. I'm not sure what exactly it is, but you can make those discussion really detached from what currently we know and what is existing in our mind. Because if you really think deep about this, who knows? Yeah, maybe the matrix wasn't wrong. We simply didn't make a right choice at some point.
Yeah. Do you remember who owned the podcast?
I think it was in the Diary of CEO.
Okay, so it was Dr. Roman Yampolsky.
Yeah, maybe that was the gentleman.
I asked because I listened to it as well.
Okay.
So when you started talking about it, I immediately connected.
Yeah, we seems that we have a similar experience. I think you can link the podcast later on in the notes of the show for the audience. Maybe they will be interested as well. Really interesting theory. I didn't have enough time to thought it through, so I would not like to make any hard statement on this.
Yeah, but it is fascinating, and like the beautiful part of this is that it's really hard to rule it out. You kind of have to accept it as a realm of like that it exists in a realm of possibilities. All right, I think we can end it there. The last really tiny question I wanted to ask you. We were talking about Microsoft and Bill Gates. Have you read the book that he released this year? I think that the title is Source Code.
No, not yet.
Okay, so I would recommend it. It's a pretty good read. I was absolutely devouring it, and it's not about leadership really, but it's more about it shows his early years.
Okay.
How the Microsoft started, what were the challenges during those early stages, and the decision process and dedication. And I like these kind of books because they always show to me that these truly transformative leaders that rise above everyone else, they are almost always obsessed with something. And if you read the book, you can clearly see that Bill Gates was the same.
Okay, so your key takeaways and advice for the leaders of the organization of the future is to be obsessed in something.
Yeah, I think.
Did I phrase and summarize the outcome from the book? Great, I will read it. Definitely, the modern leaders, the leaders which are really successful, are really passionate about something, and the border between the passion and the obsession is really tiny. It's really tiny.
So like what I meant with this obsession is like you're focused on something so much that you never think about it as work. Right? You think about it as like it drives you. You think about it as something that you have to achieve or you have to crack, you have to figure it out, and you can pour hours and hours and hours into this, sacrificing sleep and family and everything else around you. That's what I mean by obsession. So it sometimes has a negative meaning, but in this case, well, let's assume it's positive. It's not always positive when it comes to health of the person, but it brings drastic changes sometimes to the world itself.
Okay, it's all about the decision of the individuals and setting up the priorities. So definitely health is also important. So do not forget about it, even if you are obsessed and passionate, because you need sometimes you need enough long run to be successful. And enough time. And if you are too obsessed and forget about your health, you might end up in the really, really bad situation where you will not see your successes.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. My wife would definitely agree. She's a dietitian.
Okay. Thank you so much for today. It was a pleasure to speak with you. And see you soon.
Thank you very much, Paweł. See you.